2025. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person City Council meetings in council chambers at City Hall. Public access to tonight's meeting is also available on the city's YouTube channel online and by telephone using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Leidy is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Lukman Hiramasa.
Here.
Councilmember Burns. Here. Councilmember Hadamio.
Here.
Councilmember Kondo. For the record, he's
there.
connected remotely. Yes. Okay. Councilmember Roper will be absent. Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like we have 4 items on our agenda tonight, all very exciting. And we're going to start off with the City Council debrief from the 2024 NLC City Summit. During the summit, Councilmember Kondo and the mayor and myself attended the 3rd week of November in 2024 in Tampa. Even though that we had just had that Hurricane Helene and Milton hit Tampa, the city was in good shape with recovery efforts well underway, and we're just going to give a debrief for council. This item is not for us to bring forth any requests. Okay, this is just a debrief. It's also not a chance for us to talk about what the protocol will look like moving forward with these meetings. So Councilmember Kondo, I'm going to hand it over to you. If you would like to please go ahead and kick us off, that would be great. If you're there.
He's muted.
You're muted. It looks like he is struggling with tech today. Councilmember Kondo, can you hear us? Can you give us a thumbs up? Okay.
He said that he is going to call in. He's not receiving the audio.
Okay. I can go ahead and kick us off if he is not ready. Great. So I'll go ahead and kick us off just to give him some time to get situated, and hopefully we can take care of the tech problems here. That's always the case when tuning in virtually. Some of the meetings that we attended, we both attended, or with the mayor as well. So there's a little bit of overlap, and I'll give Councilmember Kondo a chance to chime in as well if he has any additions. But one of my favorite sessions that I attended was called Save Our Town through the Small Cities Council. And there was a lady named Becky from Oklahoma and Deb from Mississippi. And the whole point of this session was to talk about how to activate spaces that are unused, how to promote small businesses through means that don't involve, using a lot of retail space, so using unused retail space and kind of repurposing that for temporary pop-up spaces, having like small businesses, promote their items such as necklaces or jewelry or perfume, soap, small things like that they run in their small business and have it inside another business, such as a hair salon, or using empty retail spaces. Take, for example, the old Bed Bath & Beyond, so doing something in a space like that that has a chance and a space for small businesses to promote their items and sell them. So, and Councilmember Kondo, are you ready? Did you want to chime in there since this was your initial topic? Well, things are off to a rough start today. Okay, wonderful. So Director Moding already has this information, and she did subscribe to a newsletter on this topic, and I am happy to report that the Business Retention and Expansion Committee will be discussing some of the items that she's learned throughout these newsletters that have gone back and forth. So hopefully we'll have some positive information on how to activate small spaces, and the whole point of this is trying to get to 100 businesses versus just one or two. So how do we promote and help small business to get out there? Councilmember Kondo, are you here yet? It might just be me reporting the whole time.
Take a drink of water.
Okay. Are you unmuted? Wonderful. All right, so the next item that I will report on was a session called Enhancing First Responder Communications. And this came about after 9/11 terrorist attacks, and it was congressional legislation that authorized public-private partnership to facilitate unified responses for first responders on and off scene. So integrating FirstNet broadband solutions, they did sponsor this session with traditional land and mobile systems. The whole purpose of this is to act as force multipliers for public safety. So what it does is, in the case of an emergency where there's mass communication that needs to go out between first responders, such as at an event. So if there is an incident, take what happened in Las Vegas at a concert, it will prioritize the lines for first responders and allow them to communicate and get help on site quicker. And I know this one, I believe, is through AT&T, but Verizon also does one. I don't believe that we are currently using anything like this in the city, but first responders individually do have the chance to sign up as individuals for this type of service. So, any questions on those two items so far? No? Councilmember Kondo, are you here? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times. I think he is going to be incommunicado for possibly the rest of this session. So I will just briefly go over some of the items that Rich would have talked about. Sorry about that, guys. Rich and I had a chance to meet with the service line warranty folks, which, as we know, is offered here in North Glen, and a public service announcement. Besides offering sewer and water line replacement services, the company is also expanding to coverage for water heaters. So if you don't know about that, and you might see a piece of information in the mail come through, and that is, it is a valid service that they offer. So look into that if you haven't already. Another session was empowering cities, how technology drives safety and equity on our roads. And this one was really interesting to me, especially considering that I came really close to dying in a car accident nearly 2 months ago. And this was somebody running a red light. So this uses technology such as cameras on intersections in conjunction with software and data collection. And the point of this is to get enough data points to recognize which intersections have the highest crash rates, the most dangerous intersections. It also protects vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians. It can sense, for example, if the light's about to change, but somebody, let's just say an elderly person is still in the intersection, it will actually delay the timer so that cars can't just go through until this person crosses, or if this person is in a wheelchair, for example. And I've personally seen this also happen with my mother, who is elderly and has a hard time walking. The crosswalks often don't allow enough time for her to finish walking. So it would actually stop traffic from going and potentially avoid a pedestrian being killed in the middle of an intersection and hold the lights. And I know there's a lot involved to that, but it's really interesting. In Colorado Springs, one of the panelists during the session, Colorado Springs traffic engineer, I don't remember her exact title, but she was one of the panelists. And so they're currently implementing this in Colorado Springs and with good results. So the whole point is that it assists with data analytics to improve traffic schemes and with controlled systems. They call it adaptive traffic control management. So very, very interesting. I know, Councilmember Burns, you love the use of technology, right? So this is a perfect example of technology that's coming our way. So very, very good to keep an eye on that. Councilmember Kondo, are you still not able to tune in?
I think I'm alive and well.
Okay, yay. Very happy to hear you. Would you like to chime in on any of the items that I briefed for you?
I did not hear anything up until the point where you briefed on the ITRIS or ITREL system. So is that where you're at, ITRIS right now?
Yes, I'm on, yes, it's called IDRIS. That is the software technology. So
I
you
can
can move
brief
on
the
to the next one. If you-
on the list.
Hold on one second. I'm
sure.
having a hard time, Councilmember Kondo. Can you all hear him okay? He's kind of not very clear. Okay. All right, go ahead.
If you're having trouble hearing me, then maybe I should just call in, or Shannon, I know we have our talk points on our one pager. So certainly, if you're not able to hear me, perhaps maybe I'll retreat and allow you to read our talk points.
We can kind of hear you. You're just a little bit low, but it's not terrible.
Okay. So there was a table that Shannon and I visited. It was the Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov, various resources to help people of all ages, especially focused on elderly, with tips and tricks to not fall victim to various schemes, whether it's financial fraud or, for that matter, good digital hygiene when it comes to email and not responding to phishing links and things of that nature. We received a lot of literature, and we can hand that over to Kate over at the NSO if so desired.
Okay, thank you. Any questions so far? I know we're just blazing through a lot of information for all of you, but please feel free to stop and ask, well, what does that mean exactly? Again, this is more just for information. We obviously attended a lot of sessions, and the mayor's not here to give her part, but we did, like I mentioned earlier, have a lot of overlap. And hopefully it's just good information as to how valuable these sessions are for us. I think, for us as municipal leaders, it's important to have this type of training and understand where we can advocate and also what's coming down the pipeline. So, and this is kind of just the first time we've done this, so please keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to have a separate discussion and talk about what this would look like better in the future with maybe some visual aids or handouts or things like that. We just couldn't do that today without having that discussion as a group. So this is kind of our rough pilot program for you all. Moving on, a couple of interesting people that I spoke with. One was with What Works Cities certification, and Longmont, Denver, Fort Collins, and Boulder are certified. And what they do is cities apply and they analyze, they take all of the data from the cities and they analyze that and come up with areas to make them more efficient, where you can save money or where you can apply or move personnel, and they give you a level of certification and things to work on as well. So that was really interesting that there's quite a few cities in Colorado that are on board. It's free. They analyze the data for free. And then there were a couple of other sessions. Councilmember Kondo, if you'd like to chime in.
Yes. If we're talking about sessions or just vendors and some unique offerings, I believe I'm working down the list here. The next that I have is Text by Choice. And Mayor Pro Tem, if I'm going out of bounds, let me know. But Text by Choice is founded by a couple of MBA grads out of University of Columbia. They're brothers. And what they have is an offering for targeted MMS, multimedia, sort of opportunities through your phone. So say, for example, besides receiving a text, letters, and numbers, now you could actually receive a video or an audio clip. And so that makes a much more richer experience on your cell phone than just simply having to read black and white letters. So a small startup there. And again, it was kind of interesting. I think that going to these sort of meetings at NLC or CML, it's a great opportunity to see a lot of innovation in action. So again, contact information we have available if staff so desires to pursue further.
Thank you. since we've moved into some of the exhibitors that we've visited. This one we've heard of before, and our police department is well aware of it, but it was really interesting to stop by the Brink booth. They did a session last year, which is when I brought up drones as first responders as a request. It's in our strategic plan, so I don't want to elaborate too much on this, but that whole drones as first responders really came about from this Brink company, Brink, and it was started by, I believe the kid was 19, I want to say he was 19 years old, in response to the Las Vegas shootings and trying to come up with ways to more safely respond to these types of mass events or emergencies. And again, our police department is well aware. I don't know if they're actually looking into Brink, but I'm sure they have at least had conversations with Brink. There's other models of drones out there as well, but some of the things that these drones can do is carry AEDs, PFDs, EpiPens, and Narcan in cases of emergencies. It can deliver payload delivery, so anything that might be happening if somebody's experiencing a cardiac arrest or needs to be rescued, fires, traffic accidents. And then unfortunately, even in the situation like the shooting that we just had recently, drones can help keep first responders safe in terms of, ensuring that there's not an active shooter in the area, for example. So that's a good example of where these types of drones can be used. Councilmember Kondo, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, a couple other things. One, this is kind of a lease-to-own sort of program. So just like your car, you could lease the car for 5 years and then ultimately at the end of the term, own the vehicle. The nice thing about this is, drone technology is advancing every 12 to 18 months. So your first drone that you get when you sign up is, obviously state of the art. But then roughly about halfway through the contract, you actually get a new drone that's got all the latest bells and whistles. And oh, by the way, if your drone somehow gets damaged, say in some sort of response and things like that, they will give you a loaner. So it's not like you're out of a drone while you're getting your operational unit fixed. And then finally, at the end of the 5-year contract term, they give you a third drone. So if you have the first and second drones and they're still serviceable, good on you. But you'll actually get a third drone, again, latest state-of-the-art technology on board as kind of a nice farewell gift. Obviously, clearly the company would like you to continue their services with them. But I just thought it was really nice that for a technology that continues to change, improve, and things like that, you're not locked in and stuck with it. You can actually upgrade and stay current with the times.
Thank you. Any questions so far? Okay, great. There's a couple more items, and Councilmember Kondo, if you want to just talk a little bit about the Just Serve City program and the sidewalk safety, I'll let you kind of end with those two, and then I'll just kind of recap some of the constituency groups, and we'll move on.
Yes. So Just Serve is a, how should I say, organization attached to the Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake City. And what they are is a clearinghouse to be able to volunteer activities that a city may want to run. So it's really trying to put the manpower or horsepower behind some of the volunteer activities that a city may need people to do. And they do it for free. So that's a nice benefit. And then lastly, the precision sidewalk safety is all about doing modification of existing sidewalks and lowering any trip hazards that might occur as a result of segments of sidewalks that kind of settle and create any problems. Again, this is a contracted service, so if it's something that the city is not able to do, this is an opportunity to be able to contract with a third party to go out and find these potential trip hazards, obviously a liability risk to the city, and to handle those, dispatched with that with expediency and efficiency. And that's all I have to brief.
Great, thank you. There were a lot of booths that had information on apps. So as you can imagine, technology was pretty much the theme. So using data, analytics was a big theme. All of the apps doing all of the things, text messaging, video capabilities. Of course, they're all trying to market and sell to municipalities, and we as council members don't make those kinds of decisions. So, but it was definitely very, very cool to talk to some of these vendors and just get information on all the cool tech that's out there and all the possibilities. So, spent a lot of time doing that. They even had these really cool new electric police cars, and the mayor and I spent a lot of time at that booth looking at them, the 2025 Chevy Blazers. And I know that is part of our strategic plan as well, electrifying our fleet, so I'm sure they have all of that information, but it was also really neat to kind of see that up close and personal and touch the cars and things like that. All of these vendors have a lot of handouts, and a lot of it is linkable, so you can link it to your own like social media platforms or whatnot, if you're interested in finding out more on that information that you can share with the public. And then the last thing I will end with is that I'm a member of the Public Safety and Crime Prevention Committee, and I'm happy to announce that I was just reappointed to that committee by the president of NLC. And these meetings generally happen virtually throughout the year, and then there's one, normally a policy advocating committee meeting right before the NLC conference. So this last time, again, I think a lot of it was focusing on things like funding for crisis response units, things like funding for real-time crime centers and drones as first responders. Also, there was a request to sign a letter for emergency supplemental funding, urging Congress to approve immediate funding for small business, injury, disaster loans, FEMA, disaster recovery and assistance programs, Department of Transportation, emergency relief programs. And again, this was right after the hurricanes. All of the hurricanes had, caused all that devastation, and especially since we were in Tampa, it was definitely one of the biggest themes. Also attended HELO and WIMAGE, which is Hispanic elected local officials, constituency meetings, and those are very casual. It's just pretty much what it is, a constituency groups, and we just get together and talk about issues that are of concern to, the Hispanic population in our cities and things that are being done. The low rate of reading capability, fifth graders, is pretty alarming when it comes to Latino children compared to the other populations, so that was something we talked about. And then WIMAGE is just women in municipal government. So it's women supporting women in these types of leadership roles. And Councilmember Kondo is a member of APAMO. I don't know if you wanted to add something quickly about that, and then we'll wrap up this discussion so we can move on.
Yes, so APAMO is a constituency group that's focused on the Asian, Pacific, Native Hawaiian, Islander community. And so it's bringing together all the elected officials to have conversations, share best practices, try and figure out how to get more people of those ethnic origins to be active participants in civic government, whether it's board commissions or even running for elected office. The nice thing about NLC is that besides having APAMO, they have the NBC, the National Black Caucus, for example. They have HALO, the one for the Hispanics. It's really, I think, a great opportunity to connect with people that may have shared common experience, to understand exactly what are some of the issues in their communities, as well as figure out how to create a network of support. So, for example, there are 12 or 15 of us Asian American elected officials here in the Denver metro area. And so we are starting to kick off what is known as the Colorado Asian Group or the Colorado Asian Coalition. We're still even trying to figure out what our name is. But we're really trying to seek out other groups in other states who have done that, so that we're not trying to create the wheel from scratch. We can actually benefit from folks who have been there and done that. And so certainly Tampa was a great opportunity, say, for example, to connect with the Korean Alliance Institute, which is a group that has already banded together a number of Korean officials throughout the United States. So again, just a great opportunity. And obviously, it's a commitment of time and energy. But should you have that, I would strongly encourage you to attend an NLC meeting, especially City Summit. City Summit seems to be, at least for me personally, a much more rewarding and fulfilling experience. And that's all I have the brief, Madam Mayor. Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'm still having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, or maybe it's just me. So I would absolutely encourage all of us, when we do attend these conferences, to join one of those constituency committee meetings if you can. There's lots out there. There's Small Cities Council as well. There's LGBTQ plus IA. There's all kinds of other ways that you can be involved. So I encourage you to do that. But that's all I have. Are there any questions regarding the conference? That was plenty. Okay, thank you. On to our next item. We have the draft memorial sign program, and we have Deputy City Manager Jason Loveland presenting this item. Welcome, Jason.
Good evening,
How are
Mayor Pro
you?
Tem, members of council. I'm doing well, thank you. So as you mentioned, I'm going to present tonight a draft memorial sign program designed to honor the memory of individuals who have lost their lives in traffic crashes within the city. A little bit of the background. This came up in the fall of 2024. A member of the community had reached out to staff to inquire if we did have a program such as this. And as a matter of fact, we do not have a program for memorial signs. Staff decided to look into it as we thought that it was a valuable program to move forward to council for consideration. And looking at the programs, we also noticed that almost all of the jurisdictions, municipalities, counties, the state in general, do have memorial sign programs. So what you have is kind of a summary of taking the best, in our opinion, of those programs to kind of guide the initial program that we're presenting before you. So some of the things that you'll see in the attachment, which is just really the summary of the program, include the eligibility criteria, the sign specifications, what would be used, an approval process, and then installation maintenance, and then as well as kind of the process for removal of the sign program, which would be offered to the sponsor, the applicant, at that time. So overall, we're just really seeking council's feedback on the program. Like I said, there's several programs out there. We did not put this into an application format yet. We'll put that into an online application, assuming council gives direction that this is a program that you would like to pursue. Happy to hear your feedback. Also happy to take notes on things that you're like, hey, let's adjust this or whatnot. So thank you. Oh, fantastic.
So, sorry, I forgot to unmute. Councilmember Walker.
Thank you. Jason, staff did a great job putting this together in a very swift manner, excuse me. So thank you for that. And I was just curious, it was Miss Anna Fisher who reached out to us to get this ball rolling. So as long as obviously all the eligibility requirements are met, I'd like to make a special request that she has the first one there at 112th and Fox Run for the motorcycle accident. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Goff.
So I have a couple of questions. One is, maybe can you give us some kind of an idea about how many potential signs that people might have without now at this point?
That is a great question. I do not have that. I don't have the past 12 months data on hand. I know that we do have one from this fall, and obviously this is.
That's fine, you can get back to us on that. And then the
Okay.
other thing is, it looks like, I read in here that if more than one person dies in an accident, that will there's some name on an accident, there's a sign in that spot, and then there's another accident at that spot. Is there some kind of time limit on how long the signs are up so that somebody can put a new one up, or every, as they're gonna be given to them, people don't wanna think about these terrible things?
I don't know that a lot of thought has been given there. This program identifies a 4-year period. At any time during that 4-year period, if the applicant wishes, or family wishes it to be removed, we would take action on that and go ahead and remove that. As far as multiple names, being consistent with what I've seen in other locations as far as one name, there could potentially be size differences in of the sign. At some point, the more font is going to shrink, and it won't really reflect the same
That makes sense.
the thing. So.
I like the program, so I'm all for moving forward and sure we'll work out some bugs as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So this is kind of piggybacking off Councilmember Goff's question with regard to where the signs would be placed, kind of, say, we had, 104th can be particularly challenging at times. So say there was a fatal accident at 104th and Grant, one at Washington, would there be signs? I mean, are we talking like, I'm going to drive down 104th and just see a bunch of memorial signs?
So the goal is to place the signs near the crash site
Okay.
as much as possible. But the city is also reserving the right for space restriction
Yeah, I would want some,
and interference of traffic control and all of those things. So as close to the site as possible, but there will be some judgment left
Right.
on staff's part as far as, what that looks like
Yeah.
along the roadway.
okay, because I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but some kind of being judicious with the use of the signs as far as like, I don't want 104th to become Memorial Drive. So that, also, I didn't see anything in here, would it only be Northglen residents or kind of anyone who's died? Yes,
It was not limited to
okay,
Northland residents.
okay, so I think there's a little more kind of, again, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, just kind of thinking through some of if this is something we do want, that kind of thinking through kind of what this might look like and who we want it to be, how we want it to kind of be rolled out. That's all my questions.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I think this is a great idea, and I think if, families who lose a loved one have the wherewithal to reach out and go through this process, they can have a sign, if it helps impact and make our community safer. I think it is a great idea. Hopefully we won't have a lot of signs. That is the goal with speeding and that sort of thing. I think if, this is something that a family would like to do, I think they deserve to have the opportunity for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Jason, it looks like you need, I'm sorry, Deputy City Manager, it looks like you need consensus on moving forward. What I've heard is that we love the idea, but there are some concerns that there may be too many placed along one road. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, that would be pretty sad if we have so many tragic accidents along the same stretch of a road, then I think we have other problems to address. But I do agree that there needs to be some kind of process to identify what that looks like or what the spacing looks like, if there's a cap on the number. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. Do you have what you need, or do you have further
think so.
questions?
I think under number 6 on the program, and maybe we could be more specific, we do identify, the city's right to, restrict. and then also space restrictions. And so that could be something that we take into account. Again, as mentioned, the goal is to not have any of these signs
Right,
from accidents.
right.
So we're not, I don't know that we're planning or seeking or foreshadowing that there's going to be many since we have a sign program now, but
Right.
I think that would all be something that we would consider with placement if that was going to be, if that was going to be the situation. So I think that would be.
And Public Works reviews the applications?
We're actually going to have this go through, the first point of contact will be our community coordinator.
Okay,
They'll pass that on to Public Works, and Public Works will take it from there.
okay. Do we have any further questions, concerns? All right, so it sounds like you have consensus to move forward, but we do need a few clarifications.
Yes, so with tonight's thumbs up, if you will, that we'll bring this back in a resolution form and can address the concerns that were mentioned tonight. But the next phase will be to bring it forward for council to pass a resolution to adopt. So this was step one.
Great. Oh, Councilmember Burns.
So I just want to add for the dais, it is 2025, and this is the first time we're doing this, so I don't know how many actual sign requests we will get in the long run, just for something to consider as we're thinking through all of this and having all those questions. And this is something my hometown has done for many years, so.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. You know, I'm surprised that it has taken us this long to do it, so I'm really glad that it was brought up. I mean, everywhere you drive, you know, you see the signs, and it's very sad, but it's a way to honor, you know, for those families to honor them, and for the city to show its support any way it can, and that's one way to do it. So thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, our next item, moving right along. This should be a fun one. Looks like you get to stay right there. Thank you. Deputy City Manager will present this item, and it is about the City Hall parking lot.
All right. So this is really an update on kind of the next phase of the Civic Campus and City Hall project. One of the next pieces of the project is to do the demolition of the old City Hall. Along with the demolition of the old City Hall, within the plan for the site was the creation of a small parking lot on the west-hand side of Civic Way to accommodate about 20 parking spots. As staff has kind of looked at what that might be like, when we compare it to the north half of the site, when we look at the old recreation center that has been demolished, we started to think about what is that continuity, what kind of connectivity are we making if we limit that parking lot between City Hall and the recreation center. Staff is really coming forward tonight to recommend that we expand that parking lot, not to just be the 20 spaces as kind of originally contemplated, but to go ahead and expand that into a larger parking lot that would provide better continuity and flow for the site on the south side of Memorial Parkway. Right now, we've issued the RFP, or request for proposals, to do the demolition. Those are going to be due in a month or so. Expected date, if everything goes well, you know, the demolition can start in April. While we work on that piece of the project, we'd like feedback on the expansion of the parking lot, and really to get council's buy-in that that's something that they want us to explore, or that you all want us to explore. Another factor that has shown in the chart below the memo. There's available bond proceeds from NERA's initial bond issuance in 2019 for the infrastructure on the site. A couple of reasons why they have that NERA has extra funds available are the bonds were sold at about an $800,000 premium, so we actually took in more than we had initially issued of the $11.2 million. And then additionally, we actually, this is amazing, had some project savings on the infrastructure when we did Memorial Parkway, Festival Lawn, the detention pond, and other infrastructure that was key to building the recreation center, senior center, and theater. So with that, there's about $1.3 million that those bond proceeds do need to get to be spent on infrastructure projects on the site. Part of why that hasn't rolled forward, as many of you are aware, is we've been navigating the private development aspect of the site to see what comes of that. Right now, we're at the point where we do need to make a move and spend and invest these funds on the site. We also feel that on December 2nd, when the next phase was presented to council, there was discussion and imagery of, what does it look like between City Hall and the rec center? And the consensus at the time was for option one, which was largely a large parking lot between the two sites. So we feel like that fits into kind of the vision. It might not be the final vision of what happens on the site, but it's part of the vision and would tie into whatever ends up happening with the development of the site. So for tonight, wanted to touch base, put an attachment. This is not to scale necessarily, but to highlight the currently planned lot in that light pink color, and then expanding the lot to really add around 200 spaces in addition to the 20 that were being contemplated at first. So happy to answer any questions about the topic. You can see the total pricing that I didn't mention. All of this is really just to get the support to move forward with developing a plan for the larger parking lot. This is at no means like, yes, build it this way and put this and that in the parking lot. We'll come back with way more detail from experts that are not me to talk about the parking lot. But just from a scale approach, you can see that this is $1.5 to $2 million project that we do have funding for. I will stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you. As you can imagine, there are lots of questions. Let me see if I can go in the order the hands were up. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm not a big fan of this huge parking lot, I've got to say. I think 200 parking spaces is more than we need. I have concerns that, people from nearby apartments might just park there because it looks open. If we were going to have to, if the consensus was to make this huge, seems to me huge space parking lot, that there needs to be a whole lot of landscaping and like maybe some picnic tables or something to break it up, because it just looks like a wasteland to my mind. And then I also can have concerns that if at some point down the road we might want to develop some part of that. So I just guess I was just hoping, I know we're running into some kind of deadlines and timelines and things. Some things are taking longer than we thought. But I would just hate to be locked into a big, huge expanse of asphalt. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nowicki.
Oh, I was just going to say that part of the discussion is the temporary versus permanent nature of the lot. And so that would be a consideration, for council, is how much landscape and things like that is put into it, or is it kept simple just as a parking lot in kind of a temporary-ish fashion without, kind of the finalized pieces. And so that's something that, depending on the conversation tonight, we would want or offer to bring forward. Here's kind of what the more temporary lot might look like, and here's something that's more polished and finished. So, sorry.
Okay.
Councilmember Nowicki, go.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of in the same lines. I recognize that there is a need for parking, yeah, and that's kind of the best area for it. I do have really a question, and I think you kind of answered it with regard to the permanency. So I think having kind of two opportunities, because I know when we discussed the plans, it looked like one of the plans we had like some type of, whether it be a restaurant or some type of business structure to kind of go along there. Yeah, so I mean, I'd hate to see it just become a parking lot, with just through attrition or whatever. So yeah, kind of exploring a permanent structure, because again, the fear is that if we do make it a parking lot, we make it nice, then that will kind of limit the development possibilities. So yeah, maybe having two kind of rough drafts as far as like, here's kind of a more permanent structure, and here's kind of a temporary, like a blacktop kind of surface. And if I'm to kind of understand, it looks like, I think you said this, that there would be enough money to cover it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'd have about, if you went with the high estimates, about 5K left over, a little more than 5K, 500K.
500,
Yeah, okay. Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nowicki. And, honestly, this is where some of my concerns lie too. I would have almost liked to see like an overlay of the last iteration that we looked at, option 1, and where that was, and how different is this new piece compared to that. I don't remember exactly how many parking spaces that was in that iteration of option 1.
Yeah, it was more than we're proposing right now. It was.
Oh, right, okay.
It was a couple hundred, we'll say. So in the option 1 iteration from December 2nd, if you take that top corner of the image that you have here, it was assumed basically to take off like kind of that top corner. So it was almost the shape of the parking lot would be kind of an L versus the image there. So.
Okay, well, there's lots more hands, so I'm going to let them ask questions, and I'll get back to some thoughts that I still have. Councilmember Kondo.
It's his voice that is really.
Your sound is
Okay,
not coming
I'm
out.
going to move on. Councilmember Burns, why don't you go, because we are still having some difficulties. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but Councilmember Kondo, we don't know what happened, but you sounded like a cartoon, so we couldn't understand you, and it was very strange. So I'm going to move on to Councilmember Burns. Apologies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, I have the same concerns as my fellow council members of just like the permanence of this. I think I'm leaning more towards a temporary solution just until we know what we're doing with this space. And just, I know we have the money and we have to spend the money by a deadline. Was there anything else? Any other infrastructure projects, or do we have to spend it on this, or like, because yeah.
No, it does not have to be spent on this specifically. We have work going on the north half of the site that will probably need some support as well for the remediation. So no, this wasn't like, hey, here's a parking lot, we have money, let's go. This was, I think, the idea of not leaving a kind of a vacated space between our two new buildings and just having like a fence around dirt, I think, kind of
Yeah.
concept. We didn't feel like that was the best situation, so.
Yeah, because I wonder, and I don't know how like anyone else feels about this, but like almost like a temporary parking lot, you see it like, you know, like a county space where it's like gravelly, or like big sports fields where I used to go for like field hockey games. Like you kind of like park in this like temporary gravel space, and then like this way there's not that much invested in it, and then it's a little bit easier though to sort of do whatever we dream up, or whoever buys the property dreams up, moving forward. So I guess I'm leaning more towards this like temporary lot with the lower price tag, to then maybe we can use that thing maybe in the north. Just a thought.
Councilmember Walker.
Thank you. I just want, no questions, just want to echo, I'd like to move towards the temporary option because we definitely need the parking, but I want to see what our options are for the future too.
Great.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I agree with the temporary solution as well. But also, if there's a possibility to preserve some of the mature trees that we have, I think that'd be, something to help break up that, that stretch of just asphalt as Councilmember Goff was speaking about. If we can just keep some of that there. I don't know if that's possible with the demolition or everything, but I think that would be some way to keep some of that, nature, so it's not, it doesn't feel so vast in between our two new facilities. But that's just something I thought of while looking at the map that you've provided here. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councilmember Kondo did text me his question, and he wants to know if the EPA Brownfield grant fits, or will it impact the project? Fits starts. I don't know what he meant by that, but.
So part of the timing of this next phase, including the brownfields, is to do the demolition of the old city hall, create some sort of parking lot in that location, because that north side during the remediation is going to all go away. So that's kind of going to be the sequence of things that need to happen: is demolition old city hall, create a parking lot in some form or fashion, temporary as much as possible, it sounds like is the direction, and then begin the brownfields on the north side.
Okay, thank you. That was actually part of the questions I had going through my head as well. So either way, the idea or the plan was to have some kind of temporary parking lot in there, because we don't know how long the Civic Center, phase will, how long that's going to take to develop, or to decide, what's actually going to happen there. So I do think that we all understand, because we hear it, that parking needs to be addressed. So I think we're pretty much all in agreement that at least we are agreeing on that part, right? That we do want something there. So I think that's one part that you can take. And then I guess the second part is the options, that we would definitely like to see options and what it looks like to have something a little bit more temporary versus a full, nice paved parking lot, or maybe it's a smaller, nice paved parking lot, or what a gravel parking lot would look like, thinking of if that area, remains a parking lot for a few years, or as long as it takes to develop this out, then what will that actually need to look like as well? So maybe a gravel parking lot won't work in that situation. So I think all of that is really good to know, to have that information.
I do think from staff's perspective, gravel wouldn't be a good fit for theater goers and other things of activities on this site. And so potentially the asphalt would be probably the best solution. And the temporary-ish, non-permanent nature would be some of the amenities as far as walkways and landscaping and so on and so forth. So these are estimates. We have not priced these. So again, I think from the direction tonight, we could go price a temporary a version of a parking lot with kind of no bells and whistles, just kind of the as baseline as we could go, and bring that back to council for consideration. And at that time, you may see something and go, "Oh gosh, temporary. That seems too temporary or too basic." And we'll monitor that as staff too. I think one of the things that we've talked about as staff is being able to communicate to the community the permanency of the lot, to say, "Hey, this is our temporary lot," and seeing what the reaction is, from the community to say, "Oh my goodness, this is so fantastic that we have parking over here closer to the facility," or as we don't want to confuse folks, I guess, is kind of one of the things with a temporary lot. So we will work on balancing that out with the direction to make it more temporary than not, but also functional.
Okay. Thank you for that. So also just to kind of gauge what the feel is from the community. I know they want parking, so I don't think there's any issues with that part.
Yeah.
I sit on NURA, but I can't remember, when do we need to spend that surplus of the bond issuance?
We need to make an asserted effort to get that spent before the end of the year.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Do you have what you need to move forward to bring us back more information?
I do. Thank you so much.
Any last minute questions for our Deputy City Manager? No? Great job.
right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, folks, we have our last item of the evening, and it is city website digital accessibility upgrade and updated look. And we have our Director of Communications, Diana Wilson, who will present this item to council. Welcome. How are you?
Thanks. Thanks for having me, council, and for the time. We're here to talk a little bit about our city website. We need to do an upgrade to meet the state law digital accessibility standards. I'm happy to share that our current contractor, there was a caveat in their contract that allows us to update for a pretty reasonable cost. We invested in that last year, and now we're working on design. I'm never sure if it's delayed or if I'm impaired. Please change it. Thanks. We did get a new projector. I don't think we got a new clicker. It looks like the same one we used to use, and the plus arrow, the arrow that says move forward, is gone. So I'm betting we've used it for a while. Anyway, although nobody else has this issue, I noticed, it's just me. So could be user error. So I just want to share that. So our purpose is to look at the proposed website design, and if you guys have any suggestions, the changes you would like to see, we'd like to hear about that before we move forward. Background. Oh, it changed. Sorry. Didn't want to get too excited, but I'm a little excited. All right, so the background is the state accessibility laws, our main driver here. As you all know, we have some state guidelines, and we need to be moving towards accessibility according to that law. We are overdue for a refresh. Best practices are update your look every 3 to 5 years. We're a little over the 5 years. We have been waiting for the strategic plan. It's nice to kind of do things so they all tie together. This is an opportunity, like I said, to coordinate with the strategic plan now that we have the look of what that's going to be. Minimal changes to content and organization. It's not going to be mobile first. It's not going to have architecture changes. It's not going to be vastly different menus. Really, the big change is how it looks, and it meets the digital accessibility standards. And as you know, in the strategic plan, we do have a new website in that plan for 2027. I would like to introduce John Eisel. He is our graphic designer and is the lead on our website to come and talk a little bit about the design. Before I hand off to him, is there any questions about why we're doing this or how or anything about that before we jump into design? Okay. John, all yours.
Council members, thank you for having me tonight. Just going to go over a little bit about the branding for the city. As you can see, our branding, which has been in place for a couple of years now, is extremely versatile. We have the 4 main colors that coincide with the logo: the red, the gold, the green, and the teal, along with the black. And at this point, we have 4 main design fonts that we use. Predominantly, we have that sans serif that you can see on the website right now, and there are a couple of other fonts that we use in the connection, other places like that. This allows us to appropriately present a wide range of emotions, ideas, from professional and stoic, like in the connection, to recreational and whimsicals, like you'd see in a flyer with the recreation center. As we compare the current and the proposed designs, usually they will be different, but they'll still have that City of North Glen look. So, all right. So here's the proposed main page. What we're going for is a new visual experience for the visitors. It's going to be, as you can see immediately, it's goes away from the teal as the predominant color on the site, focusing on green, light gold, black, and red. With the creation of the new City Hall, we wanted to create more of a natural feel with this website to kind of coincide with the nature and the natural feel of the new City Hall. As you can see, especially comparing, go back a little bit, in the old site, lots of squares, lots of boxes, nothing wrong with that. We're just going for a different look, a lot more curves, a lot more rounded edges. For the most part, the physical structure or where specific items generally fall on each page will stay the same from this site to the next site. The biggest changes will be the colors, the look, the design of the individual elements. As we see here on the cover, the sections are still there. We still have the major buttons, the utility payments, agendas, contact North Glen, Mayor's Monthly Minute, new in North Glen, social media up at the top. We do have a little bit, the search engine, rather than being placed in the top right-hand corner, is placed securely right in the middle of the hero photo, which the large photo in the front on the top of the website. And it's a little bit hard to see down at the bottom, but the new and the news and the events and the meetings switch places or toggle through the click of a button. I'm going to go into the little person.
On the left, that's an accessibility thing.
Oh yes, it's a little figure, white figure on a black background. That is an accessibility button that allows people to go onto the site and change certain aspects of the fonts, things like that, to make it easier for them to read and view. Okay. Oh. There we go. Just as a frame of reference, this is how the current inner page looks. We decided to go with the North Glen Rec Center for this example, just because it was a predominant page with lots of different content on it. And this is how it would look with this new design. You can really see the change away from the blue with that inner page design. The other thing that you'll notice is that rather than having the blocks on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, everything is formatted onto the left-hand side. And then we also wanted you to see the tile page. This has been extremely valuable for us in terms of organizing content and making it easier for people on the site to see different content, getting to places where they need to be. And we know this is the kind of format that we use for the main city council page, so we wanted to kind of let you guys see what it would look like. But I do promise that when we do go live, everybody will get their own photo. We won't use the same 5 people over and over again. here you'll see the proposed interactions. And when I say interactions, when you take your mouse and scroll over different buttons, different areas, you can see that the red, orange really pop. That's kind of what we're going for. Instances where, you know, when people scroll over, or they get a real reaction, so they know immediately that something is happening, that they can click on it, and something will happen. The other thing to notice is going back to the front page for the proposed interactions, you can see that we're utilizing the mega menu drop-down once again as our main navigational tool. So, any questions at this point? Woohoo!
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you so much. This is great. I love the modernization of the website. My only questions and sort of concerns are around the mobile version of the site. I see it here on slide 7. It looks just like a mini version of the. Is that true?
Yeah, it's just let me go back a little bit. So, show you what So yeah, so what you're seeing here, that proposed main page over on the left-hand side, that is not the mobile version. That was just so to give you an opportunity to see it from top to bottom with the different sections on it. That's not the how it's going to look on mobile.
Do we have a mock-up of that?
At this point, we do not.
Okay, I would love to see like a mobile, you know, we're a mobile first society now. I think like that is really critical when we're designing something like this, is where people access our website and how. So I would love to see that. And I think the search bar being down in that like the more visible space on the homepage is great. It's a great UX change. Because I know we're not really doing, you said like no really content updates or UX changes, correct? Just more of an aesthetics front end designing?
Yeah, for the most part, this will give us an opportunity to go through the content and just kind of do a nice look over. There might be some places where, you know, we combine content or we change a name just to make more sense. But for the most part, we don't plan on doing anything drastic. I mean, we plan on, for the most part, unless we see a situation where, oh, that makes total sense, you know, City Council will still lead to Megan Burns, which will still lead to Megan Burns Q&A.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so no hierarchy changes in the slugs or anything like that?
We're not planning on anything drastic.
Cool, I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's my only thought is just the mobile, especially with the way that those circles are across, like are they gonna stack? How is it gonna like look and scroll and like, and then, because then are we getting super long and that sort of thing, yeah.
Sure can.
I do want to make sure and mention, we will get a mock-up of the mobile, but you know how like on the current mobile, you like have to scroll through? That will go away. So I'm not
Okay,
sure
cool.
if that'll stack, but you definitely won't have to scroll because I don't know about you, but when I first opened the web page, I didn't even know that there were other things to scroll to on the
Yes.
mobile version. So that will not happen. I clarified that.
Okay,
But we'll get a
perfect.
mock-up and see what it looks like.
Perfect, yeah, that was my main concern. And John, if you designed all of this, kudos to you for being a web page graphic designer as well.
Actually, it was our client, the revised, their person handled this, and so they were able to take our design. I wish.
But yeah, this looks great. I'm very excited. Glad, like, I think this is going to be much easier to read and follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. So, wait, there's more questions. Don't go away. I don't know who they'll be for, but we definitely have some more hands up. So, thank you, Councilmember Burns, for asking that question, because I know mobile for me is the bane of my existence. When I can't do something mobily, it's very frustrating. But just to manage the expectation, so this is based on the need for us to comply with this legislation. So we have to do this regardless. It is an unfunded mandate. That's what it boils down to. So just to get into the meat of it, just a refresh, just an overhaul, and then in 2027 is when there'll be more detailed, like, content, just so everybody knows and has that information.
So do you want to hear my dream, or should I keep it
Go
short?
for it, dream big.
There are companies, Granicus, Civic Plus, that cater to local government. North Glen is probably due to move to one of those platforms. Right now, we have a bunch of smaller programs, whether it's our Access North Glen, our texting platform, our e-newsletter, all of our government documents, they're all on different platforms. I would like us to start moving towards a platform that works together, including our website, but this is not a cheap or easy lift. It definitely will take planning. The first step is the city clerk, who's currently looking at different companies and what will work with them the best, and then we'll look at what modules they have. Because of our financial policies in the city, I will still have to do an RFP, whether that's, I'm looking for an RFP for 4 different services or 3 different services or whatever. Just because the city clerk picks what she's picking doesn't mean we automatically jump into that contractor because of our financial guidelines, right? So, but my dream is that we all have a common platform that's built for local government, that has 24/7 support, and Revise does offer some of those options, but to this point, we haven't used their other options. We use someone else for our keeping our documents. We use somebody else for our texting program. I believe we use 5 different companies to send out the various e-newsletters in the city, primarily because of cost. Everybody wants, some are big, some are little, some are often, some are once a year, so everybody picks what's the most financially doable. It'd be nice if we had a tool where everybody could use the same e-newsletter platform and our branding was more together and we had a nice, archive of all the different e-newsletters on a page. So those types of things. So that is the dream, and that's what we'll bring to you, hopefully, when we propose going out for an RFP. It will hopefully be multiple platforms that will tie together, that will phase in more than likely, because trying to do all of those things in a short period of time isn't very realistic. So I'm warming you up now, right? Lots of money.
Oh, boy. Okay, we still have some questions. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So I will just kind of echo what Councilmember Burns said. I really like the look. I think it, in some way, it feels a little more mature. So, yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. But yeah, I think it looks really nice. It flows really nice, and just feels kind of cleaner. I do think, I am curious, because I did visit our website kind of in preparation for this on mobile, and it makes me want to throw my phone against the wall. It's just, and that little box like follows you everywhere too. That,
And you see on this page, it has changed.
yeah.
Right.
So, do we know the breakdown of desktop users versus like mobile users? Do we have that data?
I do have the data, but it's been about a year, and honestly, we still get more desktop hits than mobile hits.
Okay, because I'm really curious about that, because I know when I was doing stuff for my business, they, said mobile first, kind of catered to that, and so, but it sounds like you guys have kind of thought of all that, so.
Yeah, we try and keep tabs on I'm a kind of a stats person. How many people have we texted to? How many people have enrolled in stuff? How many people get our e-newsletters? How many hits do we get, via Google? How many are, mobile versus desktop?
Right.
So I was honestly a little surprised myself that it was still more desktop than mobile. But you will remember we also have an app. So I think a lot of people that want to do stuff mobile probably are app users, and that use has increased as well.
Yeah. And kind of along those lines, do we know kind of what pages? I assume that the ones that are kind of the most important are the ones that are kind of frequented the most.
Yeah, and I will also give the caveat of we don't have the bandwidth to look at all of our pages all the time. So really what we focus on are our most hit pages.
Okay.
And that would be the front page, of course. Jobs is actually a pretty high one. Recreation, I'm forgetting, there's another one they go to a lot. Bids is another one. So we try and look at our top pages that are used and make sure that they're the most updated. Some are really stagnant. They're a department front page saying just what this department
Right.
does. Those probably will not get refreshed unless we see something glaring, like, the department doesn't do that anymore. We'll probably change that. So it is an opportunity to go through our website, in a more thorough manner than we typically do. But yes, our main pages are the ones that we're looking at and how they're used, how easily they are for people who are looking at them to find what they're looking for. That is one advantage to not changing it drastically. The last website was brought on board before I was here, but it is one of the first things that I tackled were complaints about, we can't find anything. And truthfully, excellent search tool on our website, but it was kind of in an odd place, and now it'll shift. So if people get freaked out, at least the search bar is right front and center.
What exactly is the accessibility features that this is kind of updating?
So we have color contrast is a big deal.
Okay.
Our front page of our current website, the color contrast is pretty different, it meets standards. I should mention that one of the big offenders is PDFs, and that's staff controlled. So we'll have to phase in PDFs that are accessible. And really what we're encouraging people to do is as soon as they can put text live on a web page, much better than having a PDF. So color contrast, there's something called WCAG version 2 AA. So that lays out a lot of technical specifications. That revise is meeting now and will be on the back end of this. How people scroll, pop-up boxes, the interactions, color contrast, whether it can be translated by a reader.
Okay.
Those are all the types of accessibility things that are the most prominent at the moment. It's also one of the reasons for the connection that we have a text version on our site now that is on the website, and you can scroll through it, use it for a reader, translate it, that type of stuff.
Cool. Well, I think anything that makes it more accessible is a good thing. So thank you both very much for your work on this.
Thank you. Thank you for asking those questions. I was going to ask the same thing. What are the features, the new features to comply with this Accessibility Act? So I appreciate all the work that you both put into this. It looks wonderful. I'm excited. I mean, I know it's an unfunded mandate, but it's also necessary as well. So, and eventually we would have to do it either way. One last question. Do you anticipate this kind of looking similar during the overhaul in 2027? Following that same theme, or, I mean, that's pretty far out, so you don't have to answer that if you're not sure.
I would expect our architecture of the website to change the next iteration.
It'll look different.
Yeah, it'll look different. We'll probably reorganize it because, the city changes. Who answers to who, kind of how it's structured. We try to look at analytics of what people are looking at and what is the most prominent features of our website and use the architecture as a way to make it easier for them. So I have done several website changes in places I've worked before, and there's usually a pretty big difference. The biggest difference was when people used to actually program their own websites to actually using a vendor, but every vendor has a certain structure that they like and recommend. So I would expect the next iteration, unless we happen to stay with the same vendor, I would say the architecture and the interactions would probably change a lot. Pros and cons to that, it should be more updated and it should be what people expect to see, but change is sometimes hard. I know you all hear from residents when there's a drastic change. You shouldn't hear that on this iteration. The next one you probably will.
I have a feeling we're going to hear positive feedback.
I hope so.
Because this is definitely a positive change. I own 5 brick and mortar businesses, and website is everything.
Yeah.
Mobile accessibility is everything. So, again, thank you. Anybody else have any questions that you forgot to ask? No?
All right. Appreciate your time. Thank you for the
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're hoping to get it done end of Q1. In the meantime, we will get a mobile mock-up and send it your way. Okay?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was the last item. Are you, I know, I can't believe it. Are there any other items for council tonight? If there was, nobody would probably say anything. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Good night, everyone, and thank you.
Good night.